Well, hello there, my Gothic friends. This is Reverend Peter coming to you live from the Gothic Graveyard Show. I'm, of course, your host, uh, Reverend Peter, aka the Gothic Wizard. Unfortunately, unfortunately, uh, my co-host, Jazzy, who really wanted to be here, having a little bit of a family issue today. Wishing her the best, all my love to her. And hopefully next week she will be square and be here with us. So I'm gonna solo it. I'm gonna solo it here, guys. Not gonna lie. This is how we're gonna roll. Um, so a few things I want to talk about, and hopefully as people populate here, get in the chat. We're having a little conversation because there's a few topics I want to talk about. First thing, as I talked about in my recorded intro about getting the Gothic Graveyard show back up and running last week, a couple things I just want to talk about what direction we're going to take the channel. While yes, the Gothic subculture, of course, will always be first and foremost, we are going to delve into other aspects as we have in the past. Definitely some neo-paganism, some paranormal, cool paranormal stories and such. Now, whether you subscribe to those things or not, they're definitely interesting. You certainly don't have to share my beliefs, but I find with those kind of topics that have gotten into the mainstream, I feel they're interesting. As far back as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Wicca has, not jumped the shark per se, but it certainly has evolved. Neo-paganism as a whole has kind of evolved from this really spooky bunch of baby killers, devil worshiper things to something. Oh, all right, you're a Wiccan. Yeah, all right, whatever. Or you're a druid, or you're a witch or a wizard or whatever, warlock even, whatever title you choose to take. You know, it's part of the mainstream culture now, for good or for ill. And it's funny because I see a lot of people on social media who they still are pining for the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, even though most of them weren't even involved in the subculture or the religion at that point. They were a wet dream in the backseat of someone's car at that point. But I digress. They're just, they want it to be all this super secret mystery religion, and it's like, let me break it down to you. It's this, it's a cute little fantasy world to live in that all the various neo-pagan religions under the neo-pagan umbrella are this really covert, secretive, well, running around in shadows kind of thing, as it was in the 60s and 70s and to a degree in the 80s. But it's not like that anymore. We're in the mainstream. It's talked about in mostly positive context in movies and literature and TV shows. Um, it kind of is what it is. So because of that, because it is broken in the mainstream, I really do feel that this is something that that we it's a good topic to talk about. Bottom line. There is a lot of, in fairness, there is a lot of people in the Gothic subculture involved in non-Judeo-Christian spirituality and beliefs. You may be a Christian goth, you may be a Jewish goth, you may be a Muslim goth, and that's great. All the power to you. But from what I see in using social media and the tubes of the internet as a basis for what I see, atheism or anywhere from a casual interest to deeply involved in one of the neo-pagan religions is kind of a pretty big thing in our subculture. Excuse me. So that's definitely something we you know, kind of embrace, because it is part of the Gothic subculture, if you subscribe to it or not. And let's be honest, even if it isn't, it's kind of cool. Like, there are certain subcultures and certain hobbies and communities that I'm not particularly involved with, that I don't participate in. For example, cosplay subculture and community. I'm not a cosplayer, but I respect it. I enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't mind watching half-naked women dress as, you know, as my favorite character. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of hot. You know, it is what it is. And I'm not trying to sexualize cosplay. That's a whole nother topic. But I'm just saying as a example. You know, I like looking at cosplay, even though obviously I'm being a little facetious. Even the non-sexualized cosplay is really cool to see. But just in general, I enjoy cosplay. It's cool. It's cool seeing my characters that I play on screen come to life. It's definitely an artistic form. Some people who I think try a little too hard to monetize it, you know, they get into cosplay, I think, for all the right reasons. They're a fan of the genre, or a fan of making their own costumes, or a fan of the games they're portraying, characters they're portraying, and that's great, and that's cool. But I think some, they get a little too big, a little too popular, and you know, it becomes about the almighty dollar. But that's true about all. You know, we can definitely, when Jazzy's here, who is a Gothic model, so she's a little bit more in tune to that whole aspect of it than I am. But when Jazzy comes back, we can certainly have a conversation about that. I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be interesting to discuss, especially someone who is, you know, to a degree involved in that subculture. So with that said, what else are we going to do with the show? Yeah, so of course we're going to talk about, and today we're going to talk about, a band that kind of crossed my radar. They're not new, but they're pretty interesting, and you know, certainly I feel you guys might be interested in checking them out. I kind of like their music, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And what else are we going to do? Oh, and that, even though I'm a little bit, you know, we just starting up, and this happened several months ago. I'm not going to talk about it that much, because if you go back in our previous episodes, myself, my former host Caroline, and even Jazzy, and Alana, we beat this topic to fucking death. Let's just be honest. But the whole Angela Benedict, who is another goth streamer here on YouTube, and I love her stuff. She's been goth since it's the early '90s or so. If you know, correct me if I'm wrong. But definitely, she talks about goth, and she's been goth for several past decades, like I have been. But even more so, she kind of, you know, I was kind of goth-esque, you know, on a aesthetic level, and then I really started getting into it. Really about mid '90s. That's when I really, I started really getting into music. I started really appreciating the music, and I was already kind of had a corporate, even though I think this was before corporate goth became a thing, I kind of was already addressing corporate goth in a way. And so, yeah, so I kind of slid right into the subculture on that level. And then I got it. Then once I saw the Victorian stuff, I was like, "Oh my God, the Victorian goth is awesome!" And so that's why you see me. I mean, I'm kind of corporate goth today, but you know, I got you know, I got into the Victorian goth, you know, by late '90s, and it was just fantastic stuff. I loved it. But I digress. And you know, she had a little bit of a spat a few months ago, you know, with, and I'm going to butcher her name, Snowy Lawfare, or something like that. She's another goth streamer, and I actually used to like Snowy. She was pretty cool. Lothair, I think, is the proper way to pronounce it. Anyway, Snowy L on YouTube. If you search it, you'll find her. Snowy L Goth, and it's Lowther. And you know, and I used to like her stuff, even though it was a little bit more aesthetic-y than you know, she didn't really talk about music too much or such. But Snowy basically said, you know, you know, you don't have to be into the music to be goth, and that is fundamentally incorrect and wrong. Period. It's not a debate. That is not open for discussion. That is just a fact. And you know, and Angela kind of called her out on it. And Angela made some extremely good points. Once this video, you know, goes into the archive, I will throw a link to Angela's retort to Snowy's comments. You can check it out. Angela did a wonderful, wonderful job. I cannot communicate any better than what Angela said in her video. But you know, to surmise it, she basically said, no, you know, you can appreciate and like the Gothic aesthetic aspects, the clothing, the makeup, the jewelry, the you know, all the pretty trimmings and make your room all gothy and stuff, and that, you know, all the aesthetic stuff, and that's great. That's cool, and it's good that you're into that. But that doesn't make you goth. That makes you, as she says, darkly inclined, or as I like to label these people, fans of the goth subculture, but not part of the subculture. Because if you don't listen to music, you don't listen, you know, don't appreciate it, you don't listen to it, you're not a fan of it, that's like calling a Grateful Dead deadhead a deadhead who doesn't listen to, like, or go to any of the Grateful Dead concerts past or currently, you know, tribute bands. How can you be a deadhead if you don't like the band, you don't listen to the band, you're not a fan of the band, but you're a deadhead? That's the same. It's the same logic with these people who are saying, "Oh, I'm goth, but I don't like the music. I don't listen to the music." Well, that makes no logical sense. As a deadhead, the point of a deadhead is you like and you listen to the music, and the point of the goth subculture came from the music. That's the basis of it. Everything else is just filler, and I know that upsets some people for that to be said out loud, but that's the fact. If you like dressing like goth, you like the aesthetics and the curtains and the wall decor and the architecture and the literature and you know, the flowy dresses and the frilly men's shirts and all. Great, that's cool. You're not goth. You like goth aesthetics. As I say, you're a fan of goth, but you're not goth if you don't listen to or appreciate, you know, we're not a fan of the music. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that's all you have to, oh, you're goth. Now, some people take it too far and say, oh, well, if you listen to or like any other music besides goth, you're not goth. Now, that's ridiculous. That is totally ridiculous. I listen to other stuff. Be the first to admit it. You know, it's not, you know, to be goth, you don't have to only like goth music, but it has to be part of your, you know, part of your playlist, if you will. It has, you know, it has to be something that you appreciate and you like, and you know, you listen to. Now, it doesn't matter what you listen to. You can listen to newer goth, you can listen to older goth, the classics, you know, from the you know, early '80s. You can like the newer stuff, like you know, Typo Negative and such, or even newer, you know, or anything in between. And that's cool. That's great. But don't, you know, but you gotta appreciate and listen to goth music on some level. And that's you know, but you know, we talked in depth about this in previous episodes. You want to go watch that, feel free. But I you know, and I know this is a little late, but I just want to give my girl Angela, even though she probably doesn't know who I am from a hole in the wall, I want to give Angela a little support, thumbs up. She hit the nail on the head in her video. And I unfortunately, I lost all respect for Snowy because, as Angela implied, and I'll just outright say it, you know, Snowy's about the hits and the views. And she's too afraid to upset people to say what I say and what Angela says, that, you know, this is what goth is. And if you this is the line in the sand. And if you don't like or listen to goth music, you are not goth. Period. And Snowy unfortunately doesn't have the courage to say that because she's too afraid to losing viewers. She's too afraid to get feedback. She's too afraid to lose eyeballs. And because, you know, that. And, you know, is she a sellout? I don't know. I'll let you determine that. I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, say, because I don't know her personally, just like I don't personally know Angela. I can only extrapolate from what they present them. Just like some of the people watching me, they don't know me personally. They can only extrapolate of, you know, who I am and what I'm about from my public persona. You know, the you know, what I put out there, like this video. So I don't pretend. I'm not going to say I know exactly what's going on in her head, but I think there's enough ancillary evidence by her actions and her words to draw the conclusion she's a little bit more concerned with views and hits and popularity and not upsetting anyone, thus losing those things, than she is about, you know, being honest with herself and her viewers about what goth really is. And, you know, and if that upsets her or upsets any of her fans, fuck you. That's the reality of the situation. So I got a little tangent there, but I just wanted to you know, say throw my 2 cents and just give Angela the support I feel she rightly deserves, because she took a lot of heat. She took a lot of heat from that. She's a lot more popular than I am, so she took a lot more heat, and you know, I definitely have her back because she is a someone I have the utmost respect with. I won't say I've watched every one of her videos, but I've watched a fair amount. And she has poise, she has elegance, you know, and more than I do. I'll be the first to admit it. You know, I can be a little harsh. I can be a little too brunt. I can be a little too sardonic for some people's taste. And she, you know, she absolutely tells it like it is, but she can say it a little bit nicer than I you know, she's a scalpel, I'm a chainsaw sometimes. So, you know, so I give props to her, and I just want to give her support, and tell her to, you know, keep fighting the good fight, because you know, there are people like myself who definitely respects her, definitely appreciates her, and you know, haters gonna hate. You know, as I always like to say, there are fans and then there are haters, but haters isn't a term for fan. Let's be honest. In fact, haters are some of the best fans I've ever had, because haters, they're following you all the time. They're you know, harping on every word and every action you do, and as soon as you do something they can find fault with, their keyboard warrior time, and it's like they're the best fans ever. They really are, because they're you know, they're tripping over themselves and spending all this time following you and watching you and commenting on you and you know, slinging mud at you. It's just like they're more fans than some regular fans are. So, hate, to me, if you're a hater, that's welcome on board. I love you people, because you're some of the best fans I've ever had. You really are. So, yeah. So let's look at the list here. What do I want to talk about today? Yeah, there's 2 things I want to do. I want to give a bit of a book review, and we're going to talk about that goth band. And guys, I see there's a few people watching here. If you guys got some comments, feel free to chat with me. If you think you want to talk about feedback, feel free to throw it in the chat box. I got it open here. I'm keeping an eye on it. So well, I don't want to be a hypocrite. Let's talk about the goth music, since this is I don't want to talk about everything but goth music. And here I was coming down and snowing. The band I want to talk about, that kind of crossed my radar. They're not that new. They're called Crystal Castles. They're from Canada. Friends up north, aka the 51st state. And I know I'm gonna get some hate mail from that joke. Now, if you look at Wikipedia on the page, they're listed as electropunk, synth pop, and witch house. Witch house. I didn't know that was a thing. I really didn't. I had to click on the little hyperlink that said that to understand what witch house is. Witch house is apparently like industrial, electronic, goth, electronic, techno, semi-goth music that has like a occult witchcraft elements or aesthetic or verbiage in the music. Okay. Again, I didn't know that was a thing. Sounds kind of cool. I'm going to have to find more bands that are labeled as witch house. But I honestly don't feel those genres are very appropriate. I mean, yeah, I can see it from the tracks I listen to. I mean, I can see where technically they could be listed as that. I personally find them more in the a mix of techno, dark wave, and goth. To me, they're a blend of those three. So if you like one or more of those genres, I think you really like Crystal Castles. The songs, I think you should definitely check out Violent Dreams, Plague, and I Am Made of Chalk. Yeah, so those are some pretty good tracks I personally liked. I mean, there might be others that you like, you might dislike them or like other tracks better, but those are the ones at least gives you something to, go on. Those I think those three songs really epitomize kind of their sound, and so definitely check them out. I really like them. They originally formed in 2006, and they're still a current band today. Their last album came out a year or so ago. So yeah, check them out. Definitely post in the comments what you think about them. After this video goes live, I'd definitely like to hear what you have to say about them, what you think about them. With that said, I want to talk about this book. Now, I bought this book. The description made it sound more like a history book. And arguably it's not. And it is this book here. The Black Arts by Richard Cavendish. Might have butchered that a little bit, but you saw the book. You can figure that out. It's, how can I describe this book? Definitely there's some history in it, but again, the way it was marketed, the description made it sound like it was just, hey, here's a bunch of esoteric things like divination and magic and runes and palmistry and things like that, and here's the history of those topics. And so I thought, oh, it's gonna be from beginning to current day history of palmistry or tarot cards or crystal scrying or all those various occulty esoteric topics. And I thought, oh, that's good, because I love history. I thought that would be really, really cool to check out. Well, it's a little bit of history about all these various topics it covers, but it's more 102 book about how to, not what about. And I mean, it's definitely a good 102 book. Now, it's definitely not a 101 book. The book does take a few liberties and kind of assumes you know some basic things. So it's not, you know, your typical 101 complete newbie book, but it's definitely it's the next level up. So that's why I say it's not a 101 book, but a 102 book. It still explains, you know, some things, and it's more of an, you know, a textbook on some of these topics, but it definitely makes some assumptions, and you have some basic, at least some basic knowledge. And so it doesn't cover the same old, you know, 101 newbie topic, you know, newbie aspects. It does kind of take some assumes you know some basic knowledge and takes it and runs with that, and then adds on to that. So it's you know, so if you're looking to kind of expand your knowledge a little bit, and get it's a nice, it's, in fairness, it's a nice mix of how to and history. You know, some history, and it's a nice little mix of that. But it's not a, you know, it's not a pure history book, which is kind of, like I said, from the description and the way it's promoted, that was that's, you know, how I was expecting. But overall, it's, you know, I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't read it cover to cover. I did certain sections I read just to kind of, you know, get an overall impression of it. But from what I did, from the aspects that, you know, the chapters I did read and such, seemed, I like the structure. I like the information. There's, you know, definitely a couple points that, you know, informed me, you know, and I wasn't aware of. So, you know, it's good. You know, it's good if you already have a basic knowledge and you want to increase your knowledge on various esoteric topics. That's a really good book, and I would definitely encourage you to check it out, explore it, see what you think about it, and yeah, and you know, but if you go in saying, hey, it's going to be, you know, complete history book, that's a little it's not, certainly not what you're going to get. And as I said, I was a little taken aback, a little disappointed, quite honestly. But you know, for what it is what it is. I will probably you know, spend a little bit more time with it. You know, check out the chapters, you know, I just skimmed over or didn't have time to check out. But no, but you know, it's pretty good. It's overall, if as I said, if you want a nice kind of how-to textbook, or, you know, take as a 102 book on the esoteric, it's definitely worth it, and it's not that expensive at all. I think, I mean, according to the label here, it's retailing $19, but I think I picked it up on Amazon for like 12 or 13 or something. So yeah, so check that out. The Count says, if you want to hear some witch house, I'd recommend Sidewalks and Skeletons and Salem. I will check. I believe I did hear some Sidewalks and Skeletons. And I was actually thinking about talking about them at one point. Salem, I want to say I've heard of them, but I don't believe I've heard any of the music. I really want to say I've read about them, but not listened to them. So yeah, so I will definitely check them out, and maybe next episode, you know, we'll talk about you know, one of them. I think those are some good suggestions. Thank you, Cal. So that's really all. As I said, without Jazzy here, you know, we were going to do a lot of back and forth talking about topics and everything. You know, I don't want to, you know, overstay my welcome as I will. I know you guys wanted a show and not a podcast. By the way, my new Yeti mic, how is it? Is the sound pretty good? You know, let me know in the either in the live chat or the comments if you watch this after the fact. I am trying out, as you can see here, I got a boom and a Yeti mic. I was having some issues with it, with some background white noise, background hum. I think I eliminated that. I think I identified what the problem was, and I believe I fixed it. But certainly let me know if you do hear either during this live show or after the fact in the archives. If you are hearing that, definitely leave me a comment. Let me know. I normally don't watch my own shows, go back and watch them. So, if there are any issues, I kind of need you guys. The count says, yeah, sounds clear and crisp to me. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. That makes it... Now, see, I got this pop filter here. I really need it. And I've heard kind of, this is my first time using a boom mic. I've always used a headset with a mic built in. So, I'm figuring things out as I go with, being all pro now. And I'm being an all pro, streamcaster here. I don't know if I really need it or if it's really needed, but I guess we'll figure that out. As time goes on. It just, I guess it kind of looks cool with it, that pop filter in there. But it does kind of like take up like the size of the video. I think it looked cooler with just the microphone right there. But I don't know. We'll see. The count says, usually, if you aren't speaking directly into the mic, you won't need the pop filter, but it also doesn't hurt. All right. You mean if I'm speaking into it like this? Is that kind of what, and I don't see the need or the why you would do that. That seems, talking into the mic like this just seems a little, don't you want a little, I guess if some people do that's helpful. Maybe for like professional, like if you're doing voiceovers or something or whatever, or maybe there's a reason to get that close to the mic, but I've not, but it's only like $10, so it's not like I dumped a whole lot of cash into this pop filter. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe next episode I'll try it without it and see if you guys can see if there's a difference. And if not, then we'll just get rid of it. But yeah, that's about all I had. Let me look at my show rundown list here. Yeah, I talked about the music, talked about the book. I addressed the Angela and Snowy controversy. Oh. Yes. It's not on my rundown list, but something I do want to address. That it seems very prominent in a lot of goth social media. Gothic elitists. Yes, I know this topic again. Oh, it drives me crazy. All right, so it seems the cool thing to do now is if you say you're not goth, if you don't listen to music, or you even disagree with somebody, you're an elitist now. That is the trigger word. That is the default go-to attack, it seems, in Gothic social media now. I disagree with you. Oh, well, you're elitist. Or, oh, goth is based on music. Oh, you're an elitist. If someone says something that disrupts your little preconceived notions of what something's about in the goth subculture, then the other person's an elitist, and that seems to be the go-to insult. I'm going to be honest. On one hand, I can count how many real goth elitists, quote unquote, I've actually met. And they've all been online. I've now gone to a real life goth event and actually met a goth elitist. They, everyone crying about goth elitism and elitists and goth, oh, you're being a goth elitist. Really, it's an online phenomenon for the most part. Now, I know there's some people who have real life stories. Oh, this person said I didn't like this band. I wasn't into, I'm not into some insert 80s goth band here, and he called me. He said I wasn't a real goth because I didn't like that band. So, he was being elitist. Okay. If that indeed happened, then fine. Then I guess that's an arguably correct point. But in general, I'm going to be honest. It's a lot of keyboard warriors in pretty much every community there is, goth or otherwise, in social media. And, these people will say a lot of things because they're just looking at a screen. And so they have that artificial courage that they can say things, but I guarantee you, 95% at least of the things that have said to me in social media, those people were standing 2 feet away from me, looking me in the face, they wouldn't have the figurative or literal testicular fortitude to say that to my face. And that's hashtag fact. Because I know that for a fact because I've encountered people online and then I met them in person. Night and day. Now there are one or two instances where they're basically the same, and kudos to them. At least they're not being fake and they're not being a keyboard warrior online. But the vast majority, I would surmise, are a real, have that artificial courage because the only thing they have in front of them is a monitor and a keyboard. And so they feel they can say and do whatever they want because there's no ramifications. But you put that person in a real life event, yeah, we both know what would happen in that situation. Count, hashtag fact. That is correct, my friend. That is correct. So, yeah. So let's not, listen, you disagree with someone online in social media, that's fine. You don't have to agree with everyone's opinion, certainly. But just because you disagree with them doesn't make them elitist. And just because they state a fact to you, like Marilyn Manson isn't goth music, he might have goth aesthetics. That I'd say I more or less agree with you. But he's not goth. He's not in the goth genre, band-wise or music-wise. That's not me being elitist. That's me stating a fact. That's like me saying the sky is blue. Now, if you choose to believe the sky is yellow, I mean, you can choose to believe that. That's fine. But you are factually incorrect. And the same thing, same thing. If someone corrects you where you are factually wrong and you are corrected, that doesn't make the person elitist. That makes the person just correcting you. And let's put our big girl and big boy pants on, and let's be big enough to say, you know what, you're right. I'm wrong, you're right. And that's what a lot of people are afraid to do online. They're afraid to put their big boy pants or big girl pants on and admit they're wrong. So they will fight to the bitter end that they are right, because they have the emotional insecurities, emotional immaturities of unable to say, you're right, I'm wrong. If more people were able to do that online, again, get over their keyboard warriorness, then perhaps the internet would be a little nicer place. Because I see a lot of people who are wrong, that prove it. I've done it. I see people post things factually incorrect. I post links, I post quotes, and I prove, shadow of a doubt, they are incorrect in their viewpoint, and they will still fucking argue their stance. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, no rational person reading that exchange would say, you're still, oh, no, Reverend Peter's wrong. You're right. No, Reverend Peter freaking put you in your place and he told you how factually incorrect you are. That's what everyone who has rational, not emotionally fired up, just looking at it from a rational, factual standpoint, there's no one who would dispute what I said. Because I cited my sources, I posted quotes, I posted links, posted news articles. Oh yeah, no question that you are incorrect. But the person still just blindly, like their little bubble they create for themselves, they can't have that pop. What I said does not fit into the narrative they want to be true, so they just block everything else out and they stick to their narrative. And that just blows my fucking mind. Aurora Desmond says hashtag facts too. That you are correct, Aurora. You are correct, girl. You go, girl. Hashtag you go, girl. So, man, we got we've only been streaming for about 41 minutes now, and we tackled a lot. I've been talking a lot lately. You guys, anything? Well, tell me in the live chat. Anything you want me to chime in about, talk about? If not, I guess we'll just wrap up here. I know it's not slightly shorter show than usual, but as I said, I'm winging it by myself here, guys, and I'm not just gonna talk nonsense just to fill up time here. If I don't have anything I feel of import or informative or entertaining to say, I'm not going to just waste anyone's time. The Count says, any tips for a pagan altar like 101 stuff? Okay, well, that's a fair question. You already see a shot of mine. You see Odin there. You see half of my altar. Odin and a few things over here. Tips, like in what regard? Because that's a very broad topic. Are you talking like kind of traditionally set up an altar, or just, in general, like, hey, here's some cool ideas for your altar? Because, as I said, those are kind of two different topics. If you're looking for just traditional things, traditionally, an altar has the god on the left side, the goddess on the right side. That's kind of how the altar is divvied up, traditionally speaking. You have the three basic, four, but I really consider three. The four basic tools representing the four elements. You have the pentagram, you have the athame, or ritual dagger, you have the wand, and then you have the chalice. Those are the as a beginner, just looking to put one together. Okay, yeah. So let me just talk about the basic concept of the altar. So, as I mentioned, those are the four traditionally the four tools, if you will, of an altar that one has that represents the four elements. Chalice is water, pentagram is earth, wand is fire, and the dagger or athame is air. Now sometimes they reverse that, the athame and dagger, the elements, depends on the tradition. I believe traditionally, though, if I'm not confusing it in my head, um, the wand is fire, the athame is air, and that's how I do it. And then the other tools you can have is white or black salt for doing the initial purification of creating the sacred space when you do any ritual. And then some sort of brazier, incense holder, small little cauldron to burn incense, or if you really want to get hardcore, mix tinctures and potions. But though most people use it just like for an incense burner, or a cauldron for incense burner and such. Yeah, and really that's it. As time goes on, you'll add things like some people have like to represent air as well. They'll have a bell. That's pretty traditional. I actually have a bell, but I'll be honest, it's just there to be there. Really, I hardly ever use it during ritual. When it comes to when it comes to air, if I got to do anything with air, ritualistically, I'll use the athame. Though some people, like say when they're calling the elements, they'll ring the bell. I mean, it's all personal preference. But so left side it represents the god, right side the goddess. Usually you have a statue or some picture or just something representing your god and goddess, your patron deities. Usually you'll have a candle as you can see in my half. Now, I ran out of my colored candles. I'm using all white candles right now. Traditionally speaking, the candle near the god, you should use the color representing the male, and the candle near the goddess, the female. Colors for the male, black, green, red, and orange. And then female, white, silver, yellow, blue. So I'm sure someone will correct me if I got my male/female colors wrong, but that's mostly, if that's not 100% correct, it's pretty mostly correct. So you have an appropriate color candle. As I ignore the white candle by Odin right now because I ran out of candles and I did a ritual and I didn't have anything else. Traditionally also speaking, white can be used for any white is traditionally used for anything really. It's like the universal non-color. So if you do run out, you want to do, for example, prosperity spell, and you're all out of green, which is a traditional color for prosperity, you can use a white candle. I'm all out of black, so I use white for the god case. So yeah. Aurora says there's no right or wrong way to make an altar. Just do it your way. Well, yes and no. If you want to do tradition, there is a traditional standards which I'm explaining how to do. You don't have to do it that way. But I'm saying I mean, you can argue whether it's right or wrong to go traditional or non-traditional, but there is, there is proper altar, a traditional altar setup. Now, whether you want to choose to follow that, that certainly is up to you. But that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the traditional way to set up the altar. But of course, as time goes on, you'll tweak it and modify it, to what suits you. Let's see. Let's see. So that's basically a traditional altar, really. 2 candles representing for the god and goddess. Those tools. Now, if you really want to get into it, on the left side, which I said is the god side, traditionally speaking, that should be where you keep your wand and on the right side, that's where you keep your athame, because the wand is traditionally, technically represented by the male energy, the athame the female. Well, sort of. The athame with the chalice is actually represented by the male and the chalice the female, but the chalice usually stands kind of in the middle. Though if you want to move it over to the female side, then certainly there's nothing wrong with that either. But I generally keep the chalice in the center, and then I have the wand on the left by the god, the athame on the right with the goddess, even though arguably the athame is also a male, a male tool. It is represented by air, so and that arguably is a female element, so that's why I put it on that side. And then the pentagram, which can be anything, like, for example, if you see on mine, this is what I have to represent. It's a little discolored. It's travels quite a bit with me. It's been around the block more than once. The silver plate on it is kind of corroded and such, but it is what it is. But this is what I have for just the goddess symbol. This is the goddess symbol basically. But you can use any. I mean, some people I know just use to represent the earth element, the pentagram on the necklace. They just put that on the altar, or they have a second pentagram necklace. $2 necklace that you can pick up. So it doesn't have to be all that great. Now I also have my crystal ball, which is basically just a piece of quartz, and I got my various crystals, get some herbs on there. That's about all I got, really. I don't have, just my black salt, and a little bit of incense. Yeah, nothing overly crazy I got on my altar. I'm a big fan of Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. See, Aura says, true. I was about to say, unless you want to make sure to pay. Yeah, exactly, Aurora. I'm Wiccan. Mine started out traditional, but over the years, yeah, of course, it evolved. Yeah, exactly what I'm saying. I am of the belief, start traditional, and then, start that as your basis, and then from there, let it naturally evolve. I think understanding the reasons and the whys of, why it's traditional and those meanings, I think that's very important to have as a basis. You don't have to follow that for your entire path, but at least as a solid starting point and intellectually understanding not only the hows, but the whys. I think the whys is very important to grasp, especially when you're starting out. And then from there, then you can, move things around as you feel as you feel is needed. The Count. Any recommended reading material for getting started with rituals or other background information? Are you talking about? I don't really know anything about neo-paganism, and I'm just getting into it, or are we? I already have the basic knowledge, but I want to further it, because those are kind of two different questions. I'm not too sure, Count, on what you're really asking. Because again, my answers were two totally different answers from me, depending on where you're at and what knowledge-wise, and what you're looking for. Yeah, so that's about it. Oh, I also have my jar of blessed water. Funny thing, that bottle I filled up like 2008. It's been on my altar. It's been blessed under the moon. It's been on my altar for all these rituals. for however many rituals I've had on my various altars. It's been with me for years and years. It's only been open once or twice when I used it. So it's like, if there's mega supercharged blessed water, holy water, anywhere, this bottle, this is it, guys. This is it. It's this bottle right here. The count, yeah, just getting started. Okay, great. There are 3 books. 3 books I suggest you get into. In fact, I can get them out for you. Let's see, this one. Where's mine? This one. And oh goodness, where is that book? All right. All right. First book I suggest, and some people might disagree with me on this, but I think it's very important and it's not a very traditional. Most people think I'm going to pull out Buckland's book, or Cunningham's book, or maybe even a Gramassi book, but no, I am going to pull out Doreen Valiente's Witchcraft for Tomorrow. I suggest you get this book and read this first for the history. She is basically the grandmother of modern day Wicca. She worked with Joel Gardner, who basically founded Wicca in the 40s. What would become basically today's Wicca in the 40s. She was there during its inception. She was a key person in developing it, in fact, from the fragments that he started off with. And it's an interesting introspective, and it's mostly for the history and understanding the background of where we're coming from. Because if you don't understand where the movement and where it started from, then you're not really gonna, some people just, they want to get into it, and the first thing they do is, oh, I want to do spells. Well, when you want to become a doctor, as a first-year student, you don't start by cutting people open. You got to work up to that point. So, let's understand the foundations and the building blocks and the basics. And this is a great, great book. Now, some of the history since this was written has been disputed, in fairness. But as a whole, because this is a first-person account of how everything happened and where it came from and her logic of why certain things are the way they are, this is a great, great book, and I cannot recommend this book. The second book, a bit more traditional from people who know about this topic, is Scott Cunningham's book of The Guide to the Solitary Practitioner. Now, this is a 3-in-1 book. This is not published anymore, from my understanding. I don't have his single book anymore. All I got is this 3-in-1. But he has The Guide to the Solitary Practitioner, Wicca, The Guide to the Solitary Practitioner, and then Living Wicca, which is his follow-up book to that. Definitely at least the very first one, The Guide to Wicca, The Guide to the Solitary Practitioner. Now that is a little less. Now that book, ignore the history he talks about. It's a very fanciful version of where Wicca came from. Doreen is much more honest about it. It's like, listen, we believe Gerald in the 30s encountered some practicing witches in England, kind of hodgepodge of various kind of stuff. He took that, he talked to me, we kind of put our heads together and kind of fleshed it out. We made stuff up to fill in the holes. We pull from other esoteric sources, and that's where it all came from. And she's fairly honest about that. That, you know, it might have some roots to some ancient, you know, some of the stuff, you know, does come from some older spirituality, but there's no direct line between Wicca and what was done, you know, thousands of years ago. Wicca comes from a lot of different elements and a lot of different time periods, you know. And unfortunately, Scott, whether he realized it or not, he had a very fanciful, oh, we come from a big, long line of witches that go back a millennia. And so the history part of his book, just take with a grain of salt, focus more on, well, you know, what Doreen said. But the explanation of, because Doreen kind of kept things kind of basic on, you know, how to actual practice, because at the time she wrote this book, she was still under the a lot of stuff was considered still secret, and she didn't want to break you know, break any vows. So she, you know, she really kind of, she talked about stuff, but, you know, she glossed over stuff, and you know, she, you know, you know, it's just, she was very careful with what she explained. Where Scott Cunningham felt, listen, you know, this was you know, in the 80s or mid 80s, and he's like, listen, it's time to we got to come out of the shadow, we got to come out of the broom closet, if you will. We got to talk about this, and we got to explain this. So, you know, the only way for us to grow as an entity is to stop this whole secretive and, you know, mystery religion and all that stuff. And so he took a lot of flack for his book, about him explaining how the rituals worked in detail, and what all the holidays meant, and the beliefs, and you know, the mindset, and how to practice magic, and he really went into a lot of detail. So this is a great, so take the history with a grain of salt, but for the rituals and the beliefs and you know, that kind of stuff, definitely great stuff. And the last book I would suggest in my suggestion is Oberonzel's Grimoire for the Apprentice Wizard. Now, you might not want to use that term wizard or consider yourself a wizard, but this is like the ultimate textbook for all neo-pagan religions. He basically still talks about a lot of stuff, what they talk about, but in a different way, a different viewpoint, which I think is good. It's healthy to find other viewpoints. But he also takes what Doreen and Scott did and takes it even farther. And this book is broken up into chapters. Like he purposely did it like a textbook. Like if you went to a magical school, this is like he wanted to write a textbook. This is how it is. So let me just to explain some of the chapters. There's basic wizardry, nature, how to practice, rites and rituals, spectrum, which includes things like magical healing, work cunning or herbology, divination, alchemy, conjuring, beast mastery, cosmology, mathemagics, ceremonial magic, lore mastery, necromancy, and history of all various gods and goddesses, and beliefs, and historic people who, both modern and ancient, who were big contributors to ancient wizardry and witchcraft and such, and alchemy and ceremonial magic and stuff. So really great book. And if out of these 3 books you can only get one, I would suggest this book. because historically he's accurate about where things came from and such. And two, it's the rituals are great, the explanations of the holidays and magic, and it's just great book. And there's a follow-up book to this called The Companion for the Apprentice Wizard. And it just takes all these chapters, all these topics, and like if this is a 101 book, that's a 201 book. So great, it just takes these, it assumes you've read this book, and then it takes all these topics and brings it to the next level and adds on. So it's really great book. So hopefully I answered your question. I know I went a little in detail there, but I love talking about this stuff. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question count and kind of gives you a starting place. But yeah, let's. I guess we should wrap it up. Going about an hour now. I try to. Some of these Gothic graveyard shows, we've gone kind of a little cray sometimes. Hour and a half plus. But we're going to try to keep these shows within about an hour. Keep them, keep it reasonable, and not have these epic marathon shows anymore. But hey, thank you guys. Appreciate. Please give us a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really appreciate it. All the support, the better. We really appreciate that. Tell your friends about us if they're into, the goth or neo-pagan subculture. Definitely appreciate that. So thanks again for all this love and support, and I will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.